The chamber of the Galactic Council glimmered with the cold light of 10,000 stars, each species emissary seated in their crystalline nests or mechanical pods, their voices blending into a storm of alarm. A threat had been sighted, not just another rogue pirate fleet or planetary rebellion, but something greater, an entity born of the void, sweeping across sectors and consuming entire civilizations in days. Reports flowed across the chamber. A dozen worlds gutted, fleets erased without a trace, defensive lines breaking before they'd even been drawn. The Shalroon delegate, a towering insectoid with a voice like grinding stone, raised its limb in despair. We cannot fight this. Every fleet we send is obliterated before it closes range. This abomination is not a foe. It is an extinction. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Council's instinct was survival, not confrontation. Whole quadrants were already being abandoned. What did it matter if more worlds fell, so long as their own survived? Only one voice cut through the noise. It came not from a seat of honor, but from the shadowed edge of the assembly, where humans were allowed a presence, but not true influence. Captain Adrian Kane, envoy of Earth and commander of their newest vessel, spoke with the calm steel of someone who had no patience left for politics. "You've already lost," she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. Dozens of alien eyes turned toward her, some with irritation, others with curiosity. "Not to the entity, but to your own cowardice. You're retreating before the fight is even over." The Zethan High Mediator hissed, its crystalline body flickering. "Human silence, you do not understand the scale of what we face. Your people are new to the stars. You have not endured the scouring of empires or the collapse of sectors." Kane stepped forward, her dark uniform glinting beneath the council lights. "You mistake youth for weakness. Humanity doesn't run from impossible odds. We survive them, we bend them, we break them. That's why we're still here." Laughter echoed from some of the seats. The Mavroth delegate's gelatinous mass rippled with mock amusement. Bold words from a species that still uses chemical propellants in some of its ships. "You cannot comprehend this enemy, let alone defeat it." Kane smiled faintly, not in humor but in defiance. "Then watch us try." The chamber erupted in protests, arguments, dismissals. But Kane wasn't speaking for them. She was speaking for the few in the shadows who had whispered of the Titan-class warship humanity had built in secret. An experimental dreadnought far larger than anything the Alliance had sanctioned, bristling with weapons labeled too unstable, too reckless, too human. Later, in the cavernous hangar of Earth's outer fleet yard, the Aegis waited. A Titan-class warship, its hull layered with reactive plating and experimental energy conduits. The ship was less a vessel and more a declaration. It stood as humanity's answer to every sneer, every dismissal, every accusation of being backward savages who stumbled into the stars too soon. Kane walked the command bridge, her crew already at stations. Commander Osai, tactical officer, saluted sharply. "Captain, we're stocked, fueled, and bristling with enough firepower to make the Alliance cry violation of every treaty they've written. The beast is tearing through the Vayari system. Orders." Kane's eyes lingered on the starfield ahead. In her mind, she could still hear the Council laughing, dismissing humanity as insignificant. She let that memory sharpen her voice. "Orders are simple, Commander. We take the Aegis into the fire. We see what this thing bleeds." Ensign Mara, the youngest on the bridge, whispered as she double-checked her systems. "And if it doesn't bleed, Captain?" Kane gave her a thin smile. "Then we make sure it learns how." The Aegis broke orbit with the grace of a Leviathan, its engines igniting in a cascade of white, blue light. Massive armored shutters peeled back to reveal batteries of rail cannons, missile pods, and gravitic projectors. The warship was an arsenal that no other Alliance species would have dared construct. Too unstable, too dangerous, too human. Hours later, the Vanguard system burned, once a cradle of lush worlds, now a graveyard lit by the monster that hung above the shattered remains of its central planet. It was a thing of shadow and geometry, twisting and shifting, each limb stretching like blades of fractured obsidian. It didn't simply consume matter, it unraveled it, leaving behind scars in the fabric of space. The Aegis dropped from FTL at the edge of the system, sensors painting the nightmare across the main display. The crew fell silent, breath-catching. No simulation could have prepared them for its sheer enormity. "Target acquired, OS," I said quietly, though awe edged his voice. "It's Captain. It's bigger than any of the reports claimed." The monster turned, sensing them, its attention shifting across the void like a tidal wave. Kane's voice was low, steady. "Good, then it won't have to search long for us." The ship shuddered as systems powered into overdrive. Energy crackled along the rails, missile bays locked in place, and experimental gravitic charges hummed dangerously. The Aegis braced for war. For the first time in galactic history, the Council would see humanity's Titan-class warship in action. And the galaxy would learn that underestimating humans was a mistake that could cost everything. "High voltage, do you want me to jump right into Section 2, the Aegis's first clash with the cosmic horror, showing off human ingenuity and tactics, or expand Section 1 even more with the Council's terrified reactions as the humans launch?" You said. "Right, Section 2, ChatGPT said." The Aegis surged forward, her engines burning like white suns as the crew locked into battle stations. The bridge hummed with tension, every console alive with data feeds, threat projections, and system warnings. Outside the viewport, the creature shifted, its form stretching across kilometers of space, limbs coiling like tendrils of glass and void. It did not move in ways that ships understood. It folded itself through geometry that sensors struggled to parse, every second rewriting the physics of the battlefield. "Target is aware of us, OS," I reported, voice clipped and tight. "It's Captain, it's changing trajectory, it's hunting us." Kane leaned forward in her chair, eyes locked on the swirling abyss ahead. "Good, let it come." The first strike landed before anyone could react. A limb of fractured obsidian lashed out, not in space but through it, bending a path across dimensions. The Aegis shook as alarms wailed, bulkheads groaning from the strain. Sparks rained from the ceiling as the creature's presence scraped at the hull like claws against glass. Mara cried out from her console, shields down to 60%, hull integrity already compromised. "Stabilize," Kane barked. "Counter with gravitic lances, aim for the limb." The ship's forward projectors roared to life, releasing spears of compressed gravity. They struck the creature's limb, warping it, distorting its motion. For a moment, the monster recoiled, its jagged body flexing as if in pain. On the bridge, the crew gasped in disbelief. It reacted. "OS," I said, awe in his voice. "Then we hit it again," Kane replied. Harder. The Aegis unleashed a volley of rail slugs, each one a tungsten rod accelerated to a fraction of light speed. They ripped through the void, glowing with frictional heat, and slammed into the entity's form. The creature howled not with sound, but with a psychic vibration that made every crew member clutch their heads. The lights dimmed, consoles flickered, and Mara fell to her knees, hands pressed against her temples. "It's in our minds," she screamed. "It's trying to tear us apart from the inside." Kane rose from her chair, her voice sharp and commanding, cutting through the psychic storm. "Ignore it, it's noise, it's fear, stay focused." Her words anchored them, The crew fought through the haze, fingers flying across controls, voices steadying as they pushed the ship forward. Marcus's voice came over comms from engineering, half drowned by the roar of engines on the edge of collapse. "Captain, these reactors weren't built to sustain this kind of output. I'm juggling 3 overloads already. Push them harder and we'll cook ourselves." Kane's reply was immediate. "Then keep juggling. If that thing eats us, there won't be a reactor left to worry about." A second strike slammed into the ship, tearing through the forward plating. Warnings flared red across the bridge. Casualties reported on Deck 6, fires spreading through the lower sections. Kane gritted her teeth. They couldn't trade blows forever. "Osai," she ordered, "deploy the skirmisher drones, scatter pattern, full ordnance." The tactical officer grinned despite the sweat running down his face. Finally, dozens of drones burst from the Aegis, fanning out into the void. Each was armed with explosives, far too unstable for any Council ship to risk. But for humans, instability was a weapon. They darted like wasps, drawing the creature's limbs, then detonating in blinding flashes. Chunks of the beast's form splintered off, writhing before dissolving into the void. The alien entity howled again, folding inward, reforming, but slower this time, less certain. It was adapting, but so was the Aegis. "Captain," Amara said, her voice shaking but steady now. "The drones are working, but the readings don't make sense. Every time we hit it, it doesn't just absorb the damage, it remembers it. It's learning how we fight." Kane's eyes narrowed. "Then we make it learn too much, too fast, overload its senses." She stood, her presence commanding. All batteries, continuous fire, railguns, missiles, gravitic projectors, everything. "Don't let it breathe." The Aegis roared, unleashing its arsenal in a storm of steel and fire. Space lit with streaks of tungsten, blossoms of plasma, arcs of gravity, tearing holes in reality itself. The crew shouted reports, sweat pouring down their faces as they fought an enemy that bent every law they knew. The creature convulsed, limbs thrashing as the onslaught overwhelmed its ability to adapt. For the first time, it faltered. The bridge fell silent as they watched, every eye on the monster writhing in the distance. "Os," I whispered, almost in disbelief. "We're winning." Kane shook her head. "Not yet. That was just the first round. It's not dead until it stops moving." And then the screens flickered with new readings. The monster's fractured body was pulling inward, condensing, shrinking into a tighter, denser form. Not retreating, transforming. Mara's voice was tight with dread. "Captain, it's changing tactics. It knows us now." The crew looked to Kane. The monster loomed ahead, stronger, faster, and hungry for vengeance. Kane sat back down, her eyes sharp, her voice calm as steel. "Then it's time to show it, what humanity does when the fight gets harder." "High voltage, do you want me to dive into Section 3? The chase toward the neutron star. Emotional moments and desperate gambits, with even more tension and character focus." "You said? Right, Section 3, ChatGPT said. The monster's new form surged forward like a storm, collapsing space itself. Smaller but infinitely faster, a coiled spear of shadow and jagged light. The Aegis rocked as gravity waves slammed against her hull, tossing the Titan-class warship like a toy in a tide too strong to resist. Sirens screamed through every corridor, and bulkhead lights flickered crimson. On the bridge, the crew fought to keep their hands steady. Mara clutched her console, face pale. "It's closing the gap, faster than our projections. Captain, it'll overtake us in minutes. Not if we choose the ground we fight on." Kane replied, her voice cutting through the chaos. She leaned forward, eyes locked on the tactical display. The system map spun under her command until a singularity pulsed at the edge. A neutron star, a collapsed remnant burning like a diamond of death. Its gravity bent light, warped space, and shredded anything foolish enough to drift too close. Osai's eyes widened. "Captain, you can't be serious." "I'm dead serious," Kane said. "That star is our only chance. We drag the thing into its well. Make the battlefield kill it for us." Marcus's voice erupted from engineering, half drowned by the roar of overloaded reactors. "You want to swing Aegis that close to a neutron star, Captain? We'll be lucky if the hull holds together long enough for us to scratch the damn thing." Kane's reply was razor sharp. "Then make the hull hold. I don't need lucky. I need minutes. Can you give me that?" Marcus swore under his breath, then laughed, a sound half madness and half pride. "For you, for Earth, I'll give you twice that, and pray the damn ship forgives us." The crew traded glances, fear clashing with grim resolve. Mara's hands shook, but her voice steadied as she said, "If we go that close, our shields will collapse. We'll be flying on raw steel." Kane met her gaze across the bridge, voice low, almost personal. "Mara, when you're in the dark with nothing left, you don't ask if the light will hold. You become the light, and that's what this ship was built for." The Aegis dove toward the neutron star, engines flaring to maximum burn. The ship groaned under the strain, gravity twisting around her as if trying to drag her apart molecule by molecule. Space itself seemed to blur, stars bent into arcs of light, stretching and spiraling as the gravitational well grew closer. The monster followed, unrelenting. It lashed forward, a spear of shadow carving the void. The impact hammered the Aegis, ripping away an outer section of armor plating. Deck 8 went dark, casualties on 8. "Os," I shouted, "fire suppression engaged, but seal it and keep us flying." Kane snapped. Her hands gripped the chair arms tight enough to blanch her knuckles. Every second mattered. Every second closer to the star tightened the trap. The monster sensed the danger too. It faltered for the first time, limbs twitching as though it understood the star's hunger. Then it shrieked, a psychic wave that rippled through every skull on the ship. Mara cried out, slamming her palms over her ears, blood streaking from her nose. "It's trying to break us," she gasped, her words trembling. Kane rose from her seat, her voice slicing through the psychic storm. "Listen to me, that thing wants you afraid because it's afraid. Every time you hear its voice, remember, it bleeds, and we'll be the ones to end it." The words struck like steel driven into the crew's hearts. They straightened, shook off the claws of fear, and turned back to their stations with renewed fury. The Aegis unleashed another barrage. Rail slugs screamed into the void. Drones scattered and detonated in blinding waves. The creature reeled back, its jagged form shuddering under the onslaught. But even weakened, it adapted every wound sealing, every tactic countered faster than before. "Captain, Os," I said grimly, "we're running out of tricks." "Then we make a new one," Kane replied. Her gaze flicked to the warhead schematics, glowing red on her display. A weapon so unstable the Council had banned its use. A weapon only humans were reckless enough to build. Her decision crystallized in that moment. "Kara," Kane called. "Arm the warhead." The weapons officer's hands froze mid-com, and eyes wide. "Captain, if we detonate that this close to the star..." Kane cut her off. "We're not here to survive, we're here to win. Arm it." The silence on the bridge was heavy, broken only by the groans of the ship and the screams of the star beyond the viewport. And then, one by one, her crew nodded. Fear gave way to something harder, something brighter. Kara's voice trembled, but her hands were steady as she whispered, "Warhead armed." The Aegis drove lower, gravity tearing at her hull, space stretching into impossible geometries. The monster lunged again, desperate now, slamming its entire mass into the ship. Bulkheads burst, fires raged, but the Titan-class warship refused to break. Kane's voice was calm, almost serene, as she gave the order. "Bring it with us, make the star our blade." The Aegis plunged into the killing ground, the neutron star's light bending around them, dragging the monster deeper into the trap. The stage was set for the final strike. High voltage. Do you want Section 4 to go full cinematic finale mode? The warhead detonation, the ship's sacrifice, the Council witnessing humanity's defiance. Or would you like me to add more intimate, crew-focused moments, personal last words, sacrifices before the climax? You said, "Write Section 4, ChatGPT said. The Aegis screamed as she cut closer to the neutron star, her hull groaning under gravitational stress that no ship was ever meant to endure. Deck plating warped, conduits burst into sparks, and still the Titan-class warship pressed forward, dragging the monster with her. The beast lashed out, claws of fractured geometry raking across the void, tearing chunks from the ship's armored flank. On the bridge, the crew held to their stations, as if nailed there. Smoke coiled in the air, consoles flickered, and the deep vibration of the neutron star's pull thrummed through the bones of the ship. "Shields are gone," Amara reported, her voice shaking but resolute. Blood streaked down her face from the psychic assault. "Hull integrity is 30%, maybe less. Engineering?" Kane asked. Marcus's voice came over comms, ragged with strain. "Reactors are running on hope and duct tape, Captain. One more surge and we'll light ourselves up before we fire a shot." Kane's gaze swept the bridge. Each of them had accepted what came next, though no one said it out loud. The Council had laughed at humanity. The monster thought it could erase them, and yet here they were, still standing. "Os, Kane said, her tone calm despite the chaos. "Line it up. I want that thing between us and the star when we light the candle." The tactical officer's hands flew over his console, sweat dripping onto the keys. "Trajectory locked, but if we detonate the warhead here, Captain, there won't be anything left of us." Kane allowed herself a small, grim smile. "History doesn't remember the ones who run. It remembers the ones who take a stand." A silence fell. Each crew member straightened, shoulders squaring, jaws set. No fear remained, only resolve. The monster surged again, faster now, sensing the trap. Its body shimmered like broken glass, folding inward, condensing into a spear of annihilation. It lunged, a final strike to crush the fragile human warship before the star's gravity could finish the job. And now, Kane shouted, the Aegis fired every thruster, every rail slug, every missile at once, not to kill, but to shove. The combined force battered the monster sideways, shoving it into the heart of the neutron star's gravity well. For the first time, the creature faltered, limbs thrashing, unable to pull free. Osai's voice broke, half disbelief, half exhilaration. "It's caught. Arm the warhead," Kane ordered. Kara's hand hovered over the final command, her voice low. "On your word, Captain." Kane looked at her crew, each face illuminated by the shifting light of the star. Mara with blood on her cheek, Os. I steady at his console, Kara's hand trembling, Marcus's voice crackling over comms, and a dozen others who had given everything to bring them this far. She nodded once, for Earth, for humanity. Fire. Kara pressed the command. The warhead launched, a glowing spear trailing a comet's tail of energy, and struck the creature square in its core. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the void tore itself open. Light erupted, brighter than 1,000 suns, a detonation that bent space and time itself. The monster convulsed, shrieking in a psychic scream that shattered every panel, cracked every screen. Its body unraveled, shredded by the combined fury of human weaponry and a star's relentless pull. Limbs splintered, dissolved, and were dragged screaming into the neutron star's surface, crushed into nothingness. The bridge shook violently, systems overloaded, sparks rained down, and the viewport flooded with the blinding light of the explosion. Mara's voice was a whisper through the chaos. "It's dying," and then the light consumed everything. Hours later, the council chamber was silent, not in debate, not in dismissal, but in stunned awe. Holographic feeds played over and over, the Aegis diving into the neutron star, the warhead's detonation, the monster's annihilation. No council fleet had stood against it. No other species had dared. Only humanity had faced the impossible and prevailed. The Zethan High Mediator, once so quick to sneer, spoke in a voice of trembling crystal. The humans, they destroyed it, at the cost of their own vessel. The Shaurun delegate, mandibles clicking nervously, whispered, "One ship, one human ship succeeded where entire fleets failed." Murmurs rippled, but they were different now, not laughter, not mockery, fear, respect, the understanding that humanity was not to be underestimated again. On the edge of the chamber, a lone transmission blinked into existence. Static cleared, and Kane's face appeared, battered but alive, lit by emergency lamps on a shattered bridge. Behind her, the crew was bloodied but breathing. The Aegis had survived in fragments, her systems crippled but her heart still burning. Kane looked directly into the chamber feed, her eyes hard as steel. "You wanted to see what humanity brings to your alliance. Now you've seen. We don't bow to fear. We don't quit when the odds turn impossible. We fight until the stars themselves burn out. Remember that the next time you doubt us." Her transmission cut. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the delegates realized what it meant. The monster was dead. The Aegis lived. And humanity, reckless, stubborn, indomitable humanity, had proven themselves in fire. From that day forward, no species dared laugh at the humans again, because the first time the galaxy saw Earth's Titan-class warship in action, the Council froze in fear, and they never forgot why.